Okay, we're rolling. Welcome everybody. This is SIG VMware bi-weekly call. Today is November 8th, 2018, and we're going to get started with community updates from Steve. You're muted, Steve. Unmute yourself.
Okay, the only thing on the community updates is KubeCon Shanghai, which is coming up next week. The SIG itself has a couple of sessions, an intro and a deep dive. So anybody on this call who's going to be there, I'd suggest we get together face-to-face, maybe show up at one or both of those and we'll meet each other. There are a number of other sessions that are related in many ways. I mean, what isn't related? If anybody on this call is a speaker and wants to plug their session, go ahead. Otherwise, that's it on community updates this week.
If there's no one that wants to talk about, I just want to add that there's going to be probably a bunch of face-to-face meetings from various SIGs happening in Shanghai next week. I've seen that most of them will happen on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a day which is either Monday or Tuesday. I know I'm not remembering correctly the date, but before the conference starts, there's a day. Usually it's the Contributor Summit. So in Shanghai, there will be no existing Contributor Summit. There will only be new Contributor Summit. So it's geared towards people that have not yet or maybe just had their first contribution to Kubernetes accepted. So given that there's no existing Contributor Summit, there will be a lot of face-to-face meetings from various SIGs, and some of them are on the official agenda, some of them are not. I know there's a SIG Docs face-to-face meeting. There's probably be a SIG Cloud Provider face-to-face meeting because most of the folks and then the SIG chairs will be there. So it's going to be, if you're attending and you're interested in something particular in one of those SIGs or more, then you may want to find out if they're having a face-to-face meeting because most of them, they're going to have it. Same thing for KubeCon North America, which is coming second week of December. Is that right? Do you know, Steve?
That's right.
There's several more face-to-face meetings happening.
Yeah, so that one has the formal Contributor Summit. You do have to pre-register for that, and it's waitlisted right now. So get on the wait list if you're not already registered for that, because otherwise I don't think you'll be able to participate.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually very important.
By the way, you have to come early. I think it starts Sunday evening, if I'm not mistaken, so 2 days early.
So as far as I understand, the community leaders have been reaching out to people that have been waitlisted to ask if they're actually coming or not to free up the waitlist. If you're coming to KubeCon North America, so not Shanghai, and you're not waitlisted already or you're not into the session already, make sure you reach out to people like Josh Berkus or Jorge Castro, because they've been going through the list of people that have been signing up. So if you want to get into the Contributor Summit, which I believe is on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, for KubeCon.
I think they have an event starting actually Sunday too. That's an
double
option.
check on that.
The fixed agenda with formal meetings is Monday.
Can you guys get that link? Because I've seen the Contributor Summit email for Shanghai, but I did not see one for North America.
I think it's in the Slack. There's a contributor channel, I believe, in the Kubernetes Slack.
Yeah, you should double check that or the Kubernetes, the Kate's dev mailing list. They've been sending out messages on there as well. Just want to make sure that you guys sign up because it's waitlisted already, and if you haven't signed up, there's some chance you might not be able to get into it. And I know for a fact that most of us will be there. So if you want
Contributor Summit in Seattle, there's actually a dedicated Slack channel. It's Contributor-Summit. And there definitely are messages in there from Paris talking about the event. In Shanghai, I know at the last cloud provider meeting, they were talking about a face-to-face, but I don't remember them mentioning a specific place and time, but there was an intention to do it. Maybe somebody more familiar with it can tell me. As I understand it, Slack is going to be blocked in China, so that we potentially might have difficulties arranging meetings on an ad hoc basis there.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know firsthand. I know for a fact that some of the services are blocked, like Google Maps, which is actually a very important thing to have.
Yeah, I think all of Google, including Play Store and Slack, are blocked, at least according to what I read on the internet, unless they're old articles and things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't expecting too much. It's probably blocked. I'm not 100% sure. We probably can have a backup plan for that.
Yeah, that's actually a good question and a good idea. If for the people who are coming to China, probably it's better if we just find a different media instead of Slack to keep ourselves updated on things happening. Especially since many of us don't speak Chinese at all. There might be some logistical problem as well. So I'm gonna make a note of that.
Do you know for Cluster API, is there a face-to-face meeting in Shanghai?
I'm sorry, say again?
I haven't heard about one. Cluster API, do they have a
Cluster
face?
API.
There was no announcement in any of the meetings about it.
Yeah, I haven't heard about anything in the Cluster API meeting either.
I'm not sure if there will be a face-to-face meeting. Probably not. I'm pretty sure I saw some of the names involving Cluster API presenting at KubeCon Shanghai. So there might be some, there could be some face-to-face meetings, but nothing organized, I guess.
Yeah, let me post a link to the published agenda in the chat. Just a minute.
All right. I just put a note on finding a different channel instead of Slack to keep us updated. Anything else on community updates that people want to share or talk about? If not, we can move on to the active projects update. All right, we have some activities happening in the various projects that the SIG VMware is overseeing. Cluster API is first. Luke, do you want to give an update?
Sure. So we've been, I think we've been held up for quite a while until we migrate the project over to the CRD. So it was using API aggregation before, and the main repo has already moved to CRD. That has is now finished. There's only one more thing that I need to do, which is set up the registry that we're going to push the container to right now. I'm trying to provide other people with access to it. Other than that, we've been adding a few small features that one of our internal projects need. And one of the issues that we worked on is the ability to add labels and taints to nodes. And we're doing it in a way that the community don't really particularly like. They think that there might be some security issues. So we might end up doing our first cap for a more generalized solution for it. But in the meantime, we're going to solve this problem by passing in the values in the kubelet arguments when it starts up. So on the CI/CD front, I think Hui found a way for us to potentially move to Prow, and work is going to be we'll get started on that as soon as he comes back from Shanghai. And I think the last update I saw from Fabio is that he has a whip for the OVA work, or in progress. So my PR for the CRD will be I will remove the whip label today as soon as I figure out the container registry issue.
I'm curious about those objections people had. Is that recorded in your PR as comments?
It's it was recorded. We had a long discussion of it in yesterday's meeting, and you know, there's no consensus on whether it's a good or bad thing, but in general, a lot of people did not like it. So there were two suggestions on how we can solve it. One being a admission controller or a webhook, and the discussion why this could potentially become a KEP is that it wouldn't just involve cluster API. It would cover a lot more general, a bigger issue, and so they were looking for the people to do propose a KEP and then push it through. And since we brought up the issue, I think we're going to go ahead and work on it.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, for the OVA work, since I was working on it, there's a current work in progress. There's no PR yet, but there's an OVA work branch in my fork on GitHub where I'm working on the OVA, the initial step. I'm gonna have this massive PR being sent out probably next week or potentially tomorrow as well, given that I just finished my uplift into Photon 2.0. And then I'll start iterating on top of that PR on the main repo. There's going to be probably some interesting decision to be made on how do we bootstrap the cluster. But yeah, that's a topic for the cluster API meeting, I guess. Going forward with cloud provider vSphere, we moved the what we used to have a bi-weekly meeting on cloud provider vSphere. We moved that to a monthly schedule, and we had our sync up yesterday. So there's not much happening in cloud provider, but there's a couple of decisions that we made yesterday during the meeting. Namely, we're going to start tagging releases for CCM. So the Auto3 cloud provider, we're going to have its release pretty soon. First official release going to be marked as alpha. Possibly we're going to have another one for beta probably by the end of the year. And this is to start having a tag release that we can use not only to give out to users to start trying out in their Kubernetes clusters, but also to have a more structured testing matrix. So right now, when we're testing and providing signal to Kubernetes for vSphere platforms, what we do is we provide a signal using the master branch of cloud provider vSphere, which is obviously good because we can see if there is some breakage happening. Unfortunately, this has a side consequence that the breaking change was merged the other day at the right moment when Andrew was given an update to SIG testing and demoing the end-to-end test that we were running on vSphere. And at that point, Yakety, that is the deployment tool that Andrew is using, fall apart because it can run the CCM because there was a problem with the configuration file. So we decided that we should take a more conservative approach when making breaking changes from now on, since the code for cloud provider is starting to consolidate and can be considered pretty stable at this point. So we're going to have Again, we're going to have probably a 0.10 alpha release tagged before the end of the week or next week at the latest. And we're going to start having containers for CCM distributed with tagged release and not just latest. So that's that's pretty much the larger changes that we decided yesterday on the meeting. One other thing, which is the zone support. Doug is working on some improvements on GoVMommy. I think I've seen a PR request, review request coming in earlier today. Once that is, those enhancements are into GoVMommy, implementing the same zone implementation that we have in Tree is going to be trivial. So hopefully we're going to have that done before the end of the year. So before we tag the next beta release for CCM. There's no strict commitment in that, but we think it's an achievable goal. For CSI, I don't have an update myself, and I forgot to get an update from Travis, which is I think Travis was in Barcelona this week, so out of pocket. I don't know if Doug has an update or anybody else.
Yeah, I can give a quick update.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a good number of pieces completed so far, some of which are in the cloud provider repo, some are on the GoVMommy side. So in the repo, the driver scaffolding is there. We have the build system in place, hooked up to CI, I believe, or at least we have the ability to run the unit tests. And then there's some refactoring going on so that we can share the config structure and helpers between CSI and the cloud provider, and possibly cluster API. And there's some other common code that's also being moved around for the same purpose. So being able to deal with secrets, there's a secret manager, those sorts of things. And then on the GoVMommy side, we have added support for first-class disks, which is a newer feature for vSphere. The current entry driver uses Virtual Disk Manager, and they have a lot in common, but first-class disk adds a lot of features for improvements when disks are not actually attached to a VM, which it can definitely be the case with persistent volumes. So there's API support for that, along with VCSIM support, so we can test it. There's the PR that you were referencing, Fabio, is actually tag support for first-class disks, and that's something that we need to address, an issue that Michael Gash raised with respect to zone storage. So we can actually tag first-class disks so that the pod can go away, but the persistent volume is still there. We know what zone it's supposed to be in. Something that is not supported in the entry volume driver, but has had a lot of requests is support for data store clusters. So we have added to GoVMommy is support for when you're initially creating a disk, to place it in a data store cluster. So there is another vSphere storage manager and whole workflow to figure that out that we just didn't have before. And within CSI, it'll be easy to hook that up, so you can use a data store cluster instead of a specific data store. And then one other piece is the entry driver also has support for storage-based policy management, also known as SPBM. And that's another way to place volumes based on policy, as opposed to data store clusters are kind of a collection of data stores. And so that client-side code was already in the volume driver entry, but we didn't have VCSIM support for it. But we have that now, so it's just going to make a better story for our testing as we start to fold all this stuff in. So I think that's everything that I had in mind.
That's great. There's a question coming from Michael Gashkin talking because he's at the airport. I guess it's very loud around there. He's asking, is this implementation supporting vSphere 6.5 for first class disk?
That was our original plan. We've been told that there are numerous bugs in 6.5. We know there's at least one feature that's only in 6.7 for supporting snapshots. But we're moving forward with it for now. We, part of the driver scaffolding is there's just a little dispatch mechanism in there. So we're going to start with first class disk, and if we need to go back and add support for using virtual disk manager, then we have a path to do that. But we haven't decided if we're going to go down that road yet. And
I just want to point out that the vSystem deep dive that you did a few months back is in the Kubernetes SIG VMware channel is the most viewed video. I just happened to look at the statistics today while I was uploading audio recordings. We should probably do that again. It's very well received by people looking at it. It was spread out on Twitter, I guess, from William Lamb and other folks, and it caught up pretty quickly. There's a lot of views, a lot of thumbs up, so nice.
Cool. Yeah, definitely be up for doing another one.
And there are no other questions on the active projects that we have. We actually have no discussion topics on the agenda this week, so it's been pretty busy. Everybody's been heads down on getting ready for KubeCon China and other projects. Given that this is a very short cycle, there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, so it's a very short cycle both for Kubernetes release and for us as a SIG. So if there is no further questions from people on the call, we can just wrap it up and give you back 20, 30, almost 30 minutes back. All right. Going once. Going twice. All right. Bye, everybody. We're going to see you next week in Shanghai or in 2 weeks on this call again.
Bye.
Thanks, Fabio.
Bye.